Superman number 45 is the last issue in one of the best runs of Superman in his history. Let's see why. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an I Review, a show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about right now is Superman number 45, so this is the culmination of one of my favorite runs out of DC Rebirth. Peter J Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, and the other creators that they've kind of combined with have done a phenomenal job with this, making it one of the best runs in Superman's history. And this is the final point, the real emotional punctuation on this, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. If you're Peter J Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, you have to ask yourself, how do we finish what is possibly one of the best recent runs in Superman's history? And the answer is pretty obvious. Back in Hamilton County at the home of the Kents, as they appear to be moving, because the house is currently sold and we know that they're headed back to Metropolis. And when we take a look at the actual family, we see that Clark is ready to clean, Lois has claimed the mailbox for her own, and then of course John is a little bit sad and he's been working with Crypto. But it's all about what goes on in this overall story. It's the family interaction. It's the wholesome nature of these things as they make their way into the house. Superman, of course, is carrying the heavy things, moving them in and out of the building, while Lois is dealing with a little bit of sadness. And she's dealing with the fact that she can remember all of these things, all of these memories that have happened inside this farmhouse, the cute little footprints that are all over the floor. And we see later that everything has been moved out into the street and they're just waiting for the trucks. The one thing that they did kind of forget is a plant that actually came from Superman Annual number 1 that was gifted by Swamp Thing. So Clark and John both determined that the best course of action would be to have that plant planted in Hamilton County so that way a small piece of them could grow up and continue to thrive inside the place that they called home for so long. They make their way over to Kathy's farm, they plant it inside the ground, and then Clark, of course, uses this moment as a way to teach his son a lesson about life. How a plant that is potted needs to have room to grow once it's transplanted into the outside world. It needs to expand its roots so that it can grow stronger. And while it is obvious, it doesn't mean that the sentiment rings any less true. So while they are obviously concerned about Boy Zorro and Rob Zorro and everybody that comes from the Bizarroverse that happened in the last arc that we had, they are still concerned about moving their way forward. So they take a look at the places of their past. They take the long way home. They go past the tree where we see John and Kathy's initials carved into the tree. We see Superman throw a rock up into the air and John smashes it with his laser vision, a much more controlled aspect than when we saw him fry his unfortunate cat Goldie in issue number 1. All these plays and parallels where they were practicing their frost breath and all these things tying into the overall story arc. And this just really gets punctuated more by Lois, who's cleaning up those tiny footprints that she can see all over the floor, whether they're there or not, and the tears just streaming down her face as she wipes clean the memories of who she once was in this space. Of course, this isn't the conclusion for the Kents, as they still need to bring everything to Metropolis, get everything set up, and settle into their new lifestyle inside the city. And while John goes to fetch his mobile, which has Pluto, which he was really needing, we see a whoosh from outside and the Flash is there. He's wondering about the movers, and evidently the Justice League has been taking care of all the different things that are going on around the world so that way Superman, his son, and his wife can have a day on their own. And while the movers aren't there yet, Flash can solve this situation in a jiffy. He asks where things need to go, and Lois just directs him where the boxes need to be dropped. And he runs back and forth between Metropolis, some odd 600 miles round trip, just repeatedly back and forth, bringing everything from in front of the Hamilton County house into their apartment in Metropolis before he blasts off to go take care of his Justice League duties at the hands of Batman's death glare. But that means that they get to go to the fair, reliving one of my favorite issues inside this entire series, when the Kents went to the fair and they actually tried to spend an average day, a day alone as the Kents, and it was successful, even though Superman kind of wandered off to do his own thing. They had their fun time at the family fair. There was a great scene at the end of it with Lois screaming at Superman while they were going down the roller coaster. It was just really fun. But while things stay the same, things also change. And what we see is that not only do we have more prize-winning cow kind of concoctions, which is really interesting because I'm pretty sure Manchester Black is one of those cows, but we see Kathy, we see this Falcon, we see Rob Zorro, we see Boy Zorro. They're working the fry stand with Maya, and Boyzaro, obviously not understanding what to do, just dips his hands right into the hot vats of Fryolator oil to make the French fries, leaving Maya, Robzaro, and Boyzaro to take care of any kind of tasks. We get to the announcement that the mayor is making, one of the aliens that has actually invaded Hamilton County and that has found residence here. So you've got people from the Bizarroverse, you've got Kathy's people that have come from space. There's all these kind of things that have kind of concocted and molded their way into Hamilton, creating the continuity that Patrick Gleason and Peter J Tomasi had been pioneering the entire time on their run. One of the more wholesome aspects is the acceptance that Superman and the rest of the town has given these people. And what they do is they show their appreciation by releasing this statue. You can assume that it's golden in its nature. I wouldn't assume that the town could afford that, but it's a Superman and John Kent statue. It's Superman and Superboy, which is amazing, and obviously John is just totally taken aback by it, saying, "I look awesome." The response to these events is everything that you would expect from Superman and Superboy. Even though this is a day off, the Flash can't help but give them a phone call. There's this giant beast, a monster that's ravaging the city, and he's trying to take it on his own. So while he is trying to talk to Superman, he drops the phone and goes to run off to get it. However, the boys have a job to do, so they hand over their hats. Lois puts on one, Kathy puts on the other, and they open up their shirts, revealing their Superman symbols, and that's how we're going to end this issue. You know, we're going to see the aftermath as they settle into Metropolis, as Superman and Superboy sit on the couch, probably with an eaten box of pizza, watching some sort of old movie, music playing in the background, Lois finally making her way from the county fair into the city, and covering up her favorite two boys before taking a night's rest. And what we see are that the Kents are exactly the same family that we left in Hamilton County that has arrived in Metropolis, embarking on a brand new chapter in their story. And this is going to make way for Brian Michael Bendis to bring in his own flavor to this story. So we can talk about Action Comics, and I actually have a review on Action Comics that's going to be posted, and you can have a link of that up in the corner, but I just want to basically say that this is easily my favorite Superman set of stories ever. I've never really been a huge fan of Superman, and what I found is that the death of Superman that ended the New 52, which was also written by Peter J Tomasi, and bringing Patrick Gleason and everybody into the fold in Superman Rebirth has been one of the greatest achievements in recent Superman storytelling. I am so in love with everything about this, and I hope that you guys are really enamored with it too. It's just this really great, down-home, wholesome, family Superman storytelling, which if you have Superman punching his way out of problems, or you have Superman without that kind of emotional connection, it's hard to make him not feel alien. You know, it's hard to make him feel like he belongs here versus some sort of super being god that is just imposing his will and those kind of things. But when you tie him, when you tether him to this fabric of reality, this wholesome nature with Lois, with John, and the family atmosphere, balancing both worlds, being this almost deity versus trying to live this life that he was taught when he was, you know, with the Kents, with Ma and Pa, it is just really wrapped up beautifully inside Superman, and I wish Peter J Tomasi and Patrick Gleason the best on the next project that they do. I think that their run for Superman is going to be remembered forever. So I'm really excited about this one. I hope that you guys are too, but I want to know what you guys think, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.